It's been a busy week for Argentina's right-wing populist President Javier Milei as he campaigns in two key elections. The province of Buenos Aires is due to hold their elections in early September. That'll be followed by nationwide midterms in late October. The votes are being seen as the first big test for the president, who's in the middle of his four-year term. On Wednesday, he was on the campaign trail in Lomas de Zamora, together with his chief of staff and his sister. At first, the mood was calm, with the president greeting supporters and signing books, but then protesters started throwing rocks, and his motorcade quickly left the area, after which scuffles broke out between protesters and the president's supporters. President Milei wasn't injured and later said that he would not be intimidated.
As everyone knows, yesterday during a campaign event, we experienced an abhorrent situation. A violent group arrived in force and began throwing stones at us. And as everyone also knows, this happened in the midst of crude defamatory operations. When we entered politics, we knew it was going to be tough, because the establishment has been entrenched in the state for decades and will do whatever it takes to defend its privileges.
And what the president was referring to is an alleged corruption scandal involving his sister. For days, it's dominated headlines in newspapers across Argentina and put the president on the defensive. Karina Milei is accused of taking kickbacks from pharmaceutical companies in exchange for government contracts. The scandal started when local media published recordings in which a former official is heard discussing alleged bribes. The individual claimed Karina Milei received a cut from each government contract. Tosi is an economist and former Argentinian Undersecretary of Finance. He's now director of the finance division of the think tank Suramericana Vision. Welcome to the day. You and the president, both economists, but with, I think, starkly differing visions of how to solve Argentina's economic woes. What's your assessment of how the country is doing under Milei's shock treatment?
Well, first of all, thanks for having in your program. As you mentioned, yes, we are both economists, but we see the functioning of the Argentinian economy quite differently. Although this difference in vision, one had to recognize that Milei's first year was successful in order to bring down an inflation that was above 211% to 100% less in 2024. Now, this year, Milei started to struggle, particularly in the political, let's say, scenario, as well as in some economic issues that the central bank undertook last July. And now we are approaching to the electoral cycle. Let's say next Sunday we will have elections in the main state of Argentina, the province of Buenos Aires, and in October, the national election. So there is a, let's say, a cycle, political cycle here. Every analyst, every market participant is a bit nervous about the consequences of this. And this is the kind of volatility that has impacted the Argentinian markets lately.
OK, so the medicine, if I understand you correctly, the Milei medicine appears to be working, but people don't feel better. So there's going to be some danger for him electorally.
Yes, because typically when you bring down inflation substantially, people approve this type of measure because they change, let's say, everyday life conditions. But now that the inflation is not a big question in Argentina, although it's still high because the monthly inflation is running nearly 2% on a monthly basis. There are other, let's say, demands from the society, and this has to do with the, let's say, the insecurity in the job market, with the low recovery of wages in most of the employees. So these are the type of demands that people now is asking to the government, and the government is still, let's say, enjoying, let's say, the first year, but now it has to go to the polls, knowing that these new demands has to be satisfied, at least in the second term of Milei presidency.
OK, so he chops inflation from 200 to somewhere around 100%. Give us an idea of what daily life is like in Argentina under those conditions, and also under the conditions that he's imposed, where he's imposed this radical austerity. What's daily life like?
Well, let's say the toughest part was 2024. As I mentioned, the inflation went down from 211 to 100%. This year, it will finish around, let's say, 30% on a year. And well, the conditions are extremely difficult with these levels of inflation. That's why Milei's popularity was so high during last year. But now, with some, let's say, political errors on Milei's sisters organizing the government strategy, and then this, let's say, corruption scandal that recently appears in the political arena, that popularity may be questions on the polls. So people are, let's say, balancing if they are looking to the past and acknowledging Milei for the success in bringing down inflation, or if people is, let's say, weighing more the actual economic conditions.
Right. This is the perennial problem for a politician. The people look at them and say, well, what have you done for me lately? Let's talk more about this corruption scandal involving the president's sister. The president insists that it's a smear campaign. How serious are the allegations?
Well, this is something that let's say, the justice has to establish at the end of the day. But if you see all the context, it appears that there is something there. There has been another allegations concerning the Milei's sisters, let's say, in the inner cycle. And one of, let's say, these symptoms is that from this year on, there has been a kind of conflict inside the government about the role of Milei's sister vis-a-vis the main, let's say, political advisor of Milei, Santiago Caputo, about how to design, let's say, the political strategy for the campaign. Caputo wanted, let's say, Milei's fortune alliances in all the districts. Instead, Milei's sisters want to, let's say, centralize Milei power, outlasting all the other political parties, and that creates, let's say, some tensions as well in the Congress, not only in the political arena.
All right, thanks for joining us, Ramiro Tosi from the think tank Suramericana Visión. Thank you.
Thank you. Have a good day.